Hello everyone, glad to be back. Today is 2nd of March, now it's almost 12 o'clock, middle of the day by Moscow time. I'm Levan Gudadze and this is my channel in which I share latest updates on the news that are making headlines in Russian media outlets and Russian language pages on different internet platforms. There are quite a few very significant developments and news that I'd like to share with you for this moment. But before I start, let me once again emphasize how grateful I am for your time, attention and support. It really does mean a lot to me, so thank you very much. That being said, let's talk about news now, and I will start with Ukraine and special military operation. And first news that I like to share with you is about Kupiansk direction. According to this information that was reported by TASS news agency, Russian armed forces did destroy five sabotage groups in direction of Kupiansk, which is here in this gray zone. And we did have the information about a week ago that forward units of Russian armed forces established partial control over this town left. This town is divided by Oskol River, and according to some news, Russian side did manage to enter and establish partial control over this town on the left bank of the Oskol River. So this area is very active, and especially when it comes to DRGs, that's sabotage groups, and Russian side reporting almost on daily basis about destruction of Ukrainian sabotage groups in this direction. This time we have information about five sabotage groups of Ukrainian armed forces that was destroyed in this direction. Let's go through other news now. And we have information that Zelensky's regime did began to evacuate children from Slavyansk. According to this report, evacuation is mandatory, and kids have been evacuated, and parents or take cares of those kids have given only a few days to also leave city. Let me show you on the map Slavyansk, and this development may be interpreted. This is Slavyansk, by the way, and this development can be probably interpreted as a preparation of Zelensky's regime for battles in Kramatorsk-Slavyansk defense line. After situation will result in Bakhmut, Chisov direction, I did said many times before that Russian side will probably try to establish full control over the Seversk, or at least encircle Seversk and Liman, and then push in direction of Kramatorsk-Slavyansk defense lines. And in order to do so in a more safe manner, simultaneously Russian side had to establish control or improve its positions in this gray area here, and Kupiansk basically are in this area. And Zelensky's regime probably do understands how will situation develop after Bakhmut become under full Russian control, and that's why they are trying to improve their positions in Kupiansk direction, but they don't really have any success there. Russian side is defensive in this area mainly. It's Zelensky's regime that tries to attack, but they are unsuccessful very much. Let's continue now, and this is quite interesting news, also expectable, because according to head of Kherson region Vladimir Saldo, security services of Russian Federation neutralize a group of terrorists in Novaya Kakhovka. And according to this information, those terrorists were planning to conduct terroristic strikes in this city and surrounding areas to destabilize the situation. And let me once again show you on the map this area. This is Kherson region, and that's Novaya Kakhovka, this town here. And if you remember, I did said many times before that in order to prepare pretty very much anticipated by many counteroffensive. Zelensky's regime will in direction of Azov Sea to cut this land bridge between Crimea and mainland Russia. Zelensky's regime will use all its means to destabilize situation in this area, in this land bridge, and before they will start counteroffensive, they will probably try to establish control, or at least create some bridgeheads in direction of Novaya Kakhovka, because it's a dam here over this waterway, which is the Dnieper. Because there is no other way to move heavy military equipment from right bank of the Dnieper River on the left bank. Bridges, all the other bridges are damaged, so that's only way they can do it, and that's why Novaya Kakhovka constantly in the news in last week or two. And if I did predicted this kind of development like quite long ago now, of course Russian security forces also predicted that kind of development, and it seems like they are ready and they are doing their best to neutralize all the activity of Zelensky's regime in that direction. Let's continue now. And when it comes to this counteroffensive, I did spoke many times before, but because we have new subscribers, I will just briefly share my opinion about it. I had some doubts that Zelensky's regime will conduct large-scale counteroffensive, or will be able to conduct large-scale counteroffensive in direction of Bakhmut, because they don't really have enough forces to do so. That was my take on it, but I was quite sure, and I'm still sure, that they will conduct counteroffensive in direction of this land bridge between Crimea and mainland Russia. And after all, I don't think Zelensky and his henchmen do really have options here, because Washington desperately needs some good news from the front line from Ukraine, and it's Washington and London that are pushing Zelensky to conduct counteroffensive in direction of Azov Sea. So we can say it's 100% that Zelensky's regime in the next 3-5 weeks time will start this counteroffensive. And because this information about possibility that Zelensky will conduct this kind of counteroffensive is known for months now, I'm quite sure Russian side is ready to repeal all the counteroffensives. And in my opinion, this counteroffensive will be beginning of the end of Zelensky as Ukraine's president, because after all those forces, Ukrainian forces, will be destroyed that will participate in this counteroffensive, Ukrainian armed forces will start to collapse, and Zelensky as a politician will be done at that stage. We may see a military coup in Ukraine, and Zelensky probably will be forced to flee Ukraine. Simultaneously, exactly at that time, when Russian side will repeal counteroffensive in Zaporozhye direction and will conduct its offensive operations in this area, for that time we will probably see introduction to the battlefield, Polish armed forces open introduction, and maybe armed forces of a few other NATO member states, predominantly Lithuania, Latvia, Estonia, these Baltic states, probably Slovakia, maybe Romania, few more other NATO member states. And after recent move from Moscow, as you know, Putin, President of Russia, Vladimir Putin, decided to deploy tactical nuclear weapons in Belarus. After this step, probably there are less chances, that less risk that this anti-Russian coalition will try to attack Belarus and Kaliningrad. But that kind of opportunity still exists, because look at the leadership of let's say, Baltic states and Poland. They are extremely Russophobic. They are dreaming of defeating Russia, and they may do some crazy stuff, despite the risk that those tactical nukes are presenting. That's how crazy those elites are in that states, and it's up to societies now, up to societies of Poland, Baltic states, and all the other Eastern European nations to make sure that their elites are, in check, and they will not do anything crazy. But when it comes to Ukraine, I'm 100% sure that Poland, at least Poland, will introduce its forces to the battlefield, and Russia, as minimum, will try to establish control over some western regions of this country, including Lvov city. But yet again, let's see how the situation develops. Before end of this year, we will definitely, or maybe even before end of coming summer, we will definitely have a much better understanding of situation on the front line, and before end of this year, this conflict may very well end. Let's continue now. And this information probably will be interesting for you. TASS news agency is reporting about statement that former Russian president and current deputy chairman of Russian Security Council, Dmitry Medvedev, made. I did share this information on my Telegram channel, and let me read for you a few episodes from Medvedev's statements. So it's a quote here: looking at what Zelensky and company, Zelensky and his henchmen, doing in relation to the Kievo-Pechersk Lavra, you especially sharply understand what kind of enraged bastards and scum they are. There is simply no other definition for them, and yes, it's hard to disagree with Medvedev. I'm not sure that high-ranking officials should use this language in its statements, but when it comes to definition of Zelensky and his henchmen, I will add that they are not just bastards and scums, but they are war criminals, they are mass murderers and Nazis, and they should be exterminated. Definitely. That's what I will add to it. And Medvedev is continuing here, and he's saying that those elements, Zelensky and his henchmen, will and should end up not just in the court on this in this life, but they will also answer for their crimes afterlife, before God. And yes, even though I'm not really too religious person, yes, Zelensky and his henchmen will definitely answer to some questions before, I hope, in this life, first of all, and then before God. So yes, as you can see, Russian officials, and Medvedev is a high-ranking official, they are very well informed about devastating impact that Zelensky and his associates have on Ukraine, on relationships between Russia and Ukraine, and this is once again raises questions. Why those elements, those individuals that are running Ukraine are still safe and are not being targeted by Russian forces? I mean, how much more damage they have to do for Moscow to change its approach, change its soft approach, and start taking them out, because that's what US will do, isn't it? If it was US that conducting this operation, this special military operation, I'm quite sure Zelensky and his associates will, or political and military leadership of current Nazi Ukraine, will be eliminated in the first minutes of the conflict, maybe first hour, but definitely first day, because US always goes for leadership of enemy. And I think that's the right approach. If it comes to military campaign, of course you have to destroy leadership of your opponent's side, at least to make sure that your opponent is disorganized and losing time before they will some new leadership will be established. But yet again, it's not up to me, it's up to Moscow, and maybe everything has its own time. Maybe it's not the time to deal with Zelensky and his henchmen right now. I don't know what his strategy of Putin and his command is. Let's continue now, and this is quite interesting news about article in Foreign Policy, and Foreign Policy is one of the most influential media outlets in the West, especially in the USA. And according to journalist of Foreign Policy Stephen Walt, US administration, current administration of US did not really understand how important Ukraine was for Russia. Because if they did have the understanding, they will conduct themselves differently to avoid this military conflict. To be honest, I'm not sure that Stephen Walt is very well informed, even though he is journalist of foreign policy, because US elites, US deep state were pushing for this conflict for a long time, and they did successfully provoke this conflict exactly because they did very well understand how important Ukraine was for Russia. But yet again, because foreign policy is writing about it, that may mean that there is some divisions inside the deep state of US or inside the Western elites as a whole. And these kind of articles, probably are preparing ground for future possible developments, which will allow Western elites to distance themselves from Ukraine and this conflict. Because in this point, I cannot agree with the journalist of foreign policy that US administration did not know how important Ukraine was. They knew it very well. That's why, and that's how they did successfully provoke this conflict. But once again, we do see time after time publications in the Western media, which is are basically preparing ground for leadership of Western countries to, at a certain point, distance themselves from the conflict and at the same time minimize damage, especially reputational damage, because everyone understands that after Russian win in this conflict will be formalized, and it's only a matter of time. Western elites will be forced to answer to their societies, because questions will rise, definitely. And let me continue now, and this is quite interesting news, quite interesting and funny, and it does shows how out of touch with reality Zelensky and his henchmen really are, because now in Kiev those idiots are planning to change name of Sevastopol city. And Sevastopol, by the way, is a city hero on Crimea, main base for Russian Black Sea. That's Sevastopol here. And even though Crimean Peninsula under full Russian control since 2014, Zelensky's regime, and even though Sevastopol is a historic name, you cannot do this kind of stuff, because even in the West probably questions will arise. I mean, what the hell are you doing, guys? They will probably ask those idiots in Kiev, why they are spending time on such topics that will make them even more disgraceful. But yet again, that's what they are doing, man. And they may call now Sevastopol, I don't know, Zelensky City, or I don't know. It's crazy, man. It's crazy. And now, by the way, I was thinking how to make my updates a little bit more interesting. And I come up with the idea to devote some 3 to 5 minutes in every update to one of the questions that I will see in comment sections. And I will call this window question time. Let's see if it's interesting, then I will continue doing so. And yes, I have a question for this episode, but before I talk about it, let me promote a little bit my channel and say that if you think this channel is interesting, useful, has some potential, and deserves to exist in this field of news and the political commentary, please consider to support with small donations through PayPal or subscribe to my Patreon page. You will see links under this video in the description box. And when it comes to Patreon, after I will upload this video, I will start working on update for Patreon also, and in few hours time I will upload new update for Patreon page also. And when it comes to question time, question that I will answer today is about why am I not doing more updates during the day, more videos. And I did see this question yesterday, and it somehow it just stuck to me. And the answer is quite simple, really. I don't really have a time to make more videos, at least on daily basis, because I will share with you my usual time frame of my day and the schedule of my day, and you will see that it's truly not enough time to create more content on daily basis for now. In future, quite possible, but for now, once I wake up, I have for myself, let's say half an hour maybe, and then I have to start working on update. I have to choose news that I will share with you. I have to update my Telegram channel simultaneously. I have to check mail. I have to check Patreon page and answer questions whenever I see them. And same time, I have to record update for a YouTube channel, then upload this update. I have to also upload the same video on my Rumble channel. I hope Rumble will develop. Right now I only have 130 subscribers. I hope Rumble will become more popular, or my page on Rumble will become more popular, because that's a reserve line. Let's say the Rumble and the Telegram channel, that's and the Patreon, that's free reserve lines that I have to communicate with you. And yes, after I will upload on Rumble very same video, and I try to do it on a daily basis. Yesterday I didn't manage to upload on Rumble because some technical issues. But after that, I have to spend at least an hour or two to answer to all the questions that I will see on the in the comment section under the new update. And as you can see, I'm trying to react to all the comments and at least say thank you for attention and support that I'm receiving from you. And after that, I have to write some comments on other channels to somehow promote my own channel. And probably you all see my comments on various channels or many other channels. And I never share links to my own channel, but I do mention in that comments that I also have a channel, you know. And my hope is that when people read my comment, if they will read it, some of them may think, you know, let's check his channel, what he's about. And when they come to my channel, they may see one video or another, and some of them will probably decide to stay on my channel and they will subscribe. And the majority of you probably exactly this way receive information that this channel exists. So, and that's all day. This is, I mean, all the time that I have during the day. And in the late afternoon, I have to start working on the update again to make sure that in next update, I will share all the interesting news that was reported since the update during the day, basically. I hope I did explain myself, but that's why I cannot do some more videos. If any, some super important development, of course I will make additional update. But for now, I just don't really have time for it. Once we will reach, I don't know, 10,000 subscribers, if we will ever reach that that step or that level, maybe I will stop spending so much time on other channels, and I can use that time to create some additional content on for YouTube. But right now, I don't really have options, to be honest. So that's the first question time. That's first question time. If I see, you know, let's see if this, how should I say? If you find it interesting to do some question times in every update, then tell me about it in comment sections, and I will do some more question times tomorrow and in all the other updates. So let's continue now. How long is this video? 27 minutes. Okay, I will go through headlines as fast as I can. So this is quite interesting. RIA Novosti reports that in Armenia, leadership of Armenia thinks that relationships between Yerevan and Moscow won't be harmed because of decision of Armenian authorities to join International Criminal Court and apply all the orders of that court according to Rim statute, and Yerevan is a part of Rim statute. And this kind of statement was made by Vice Speaker of Armenian Parliament, Akop Arshakyan. And to be honest, I don't know. Is this a joke or some sort of, or what is going on? How can anyone think that fact that Yerevan will act in accordance to International Criminal Court will not influence relationships with Moscow when very same International Criminal Court issue order for arrest of Putin? And then Armenia, at least openly, are declaring that Russia is a strategic partner for that republic. And I mean, very strange things are happening, to be honest, and I have only one explanation. Current Prime Minister of Armenia, Pashinyan, and his group, his command, almost all of them are project of Soros. One way or another, they did had some dealings with the Soros funds and some other Western institutions that trying to, you know, impose the influence through those instruments. And basically, since Pashinyan became Prime Minister of Armenia, relationships between Armenia and Russia are crumbling. That's a simple truth. and probably many citizens of Armenia or many Armenians all around the world are not really happy about it, because just look at the geography of Armenia, and everything will become clear. I believe Armenia do needs good relationships with Russia more than Russia needs good relationships with Armenia, even though, of course, Russia do need to have good relationships with everyone, but we should have understanding, of our place in this geopolitical chessboard. And I think current Armenian government is not really understands where their place is in this chessboard. They may think that France and Washington, or France and US or some other countries, Western countries, will do for them more than Russia does, but they are mistaken very badly. They are mistaken very badly. But yet again, that's current Armenian government, current Armenian leadership has won in elections, so I assume majority of citizens of Armenia support them, and I hope they also are ready for consequences of their actions. Let's continue now. And this is quite interesting news also. TASS is reporting that in two cities of Spain, some anti-war and anti-NATO demonstrations had taken place, in Pamplona and in Vitoria-Gasteiz. And this is good. What can I say? Yesterday I exactly mentioned this situation, that majority of society in Western states are quite passive, and maybe they are believing in Western propaganda too much and not really realizing what kind of risks Western elites are creating by constant escalation with Russia. Only small groups of citizens in the West are truly well informed and very well understand what is going on. And these kind of demonstrations are important, because that's probably only way to reach wider society, to try to inform them what is going on and how dangerous current situation is, and how quickly this situation may escalate up to global conflict. So I applaud to all of the citizens of Spain that did participate in these demonstrations. It's necessary. It's truly necessary, though. Let's continue now, and this is RT's report, and we have information that Syria suffers third night of Israeli strikes. What you gonna say about this, man? Israel's government, I cannot remember when Israel last time had some adequate government that will act adequately and respectfully towards its neighbors. I cannot remember. Probably there were some, but definitely not the current one, because they are acting absolutely inadequately towards neighbors, and I don't understand why world is silent about this crazy behavior of Israel towards its neighbors, towards Palestinians, towards Lebanon, towards Syria in this case. How long this craziness, this madness will continue? Syria is not a threat for Israel. Palestinians are not, just be fair with Palestinians and they will be no threat to Israel. I'm absolutely sure about this. That's my take on it. be fair and just towards Palestinians, and they will have no problem with Israel no more. And Lebanon, man, Lebanon is devastated for decades just because it's bordering Israel. And Israel was actively involved in civil war in Lebanon, not just Israel, but US, just everyone. And once prosperous country have been destroyed, and now, no matter how hard they try to develop peacefully, time after time, they are becoming target also of Israel and the Western, not just Israel, Western elites also. And it's a wonderful place, man. Lebanon, I do believe that Beirut, for example, capital of Lebanon, once were seen as a second Paris, French capital. That's how beautiful that city is. And Lebanon itself is a wonderful place. Yeah, crazy, man. World should not be quiet when this kind of stuff is happening, but we all understand Israel has a huge influence in many countries, and that's why probably they are able to do whatever they want in that region, and that's wrong. It's not supposed to be like that. Let's continue, and I hope Israelis. My hope is with Israelis, man, with Israeli society. I hope one day they will manage to establish truly they will help to become in government, to become prime minister, to some truly adequate people. And once that will happen, we may see some true peace in that region. Israel do needs proper government with adequate people, not the current crazy idiots, man. This Netanyahu, man, it's a crazy idiot, man. He should be in jail, for God's sake. And he is prime minister again. How long, man? What is wrong with situation there? What is happening? This bastard should be in jail, for God's sake, man. And he is still prime minister of Israel, man. Can you imagine that? Unbelievable, though. So let's continue, and that's quite interesting news. After huge diplomatic success of China, when Beijing managed to bring closer Iran and Saudi Arabia, it has influence on the entire region, this development, and now we have informations that more and more countries are yet again establishing relationships with Syria. With Syria, and Egypt gonna be next one. Just recently, Bashar Assad, president of Syria, visited United Arab Emirates, if I'm not mistaken, and United Arab Emirates and Syria will establish, and improve their relationships, and same will happen with Egypt. And that's a good development. Man. Middle East was suffering from these constant conflicts for too long. It's time for peace, man. It's time for peace. Let's continue now, and this is Kommersant News Agency's report. Quite an interesting one also. USA is asking other G7 member states to become more proactive against Chinese economical influence or pressure. And I don't think they can do much, to be honest, because they are too dependent on China, and this will not change. Any move, any move that G7 countries will do against China in economical terms, let's say sanctions or anything like that, will harm G7 countries much more than China itself. If G7 countries cannot deal with Russia's economy, what are they gonna do with China, man? Chinese economy, like 20 times, or I don't know exact numbers, but if not 20, at least 10 times bigger than Russian economy, maybe more, maybe more. It's a second economy in the world after USA, and some experts are saying that China already may be number one economy in the world. So this is all just statements for statements, because in reality, I don't think Western states, especially G7 countries, are ready to, and Japan, of course, part of G7. It's not a Western country, but in that club of Western states. So I don't think they are truly ready to conduct themselves with China as they did with Russia. They probably learned some lessons. So let's continue now, and that's quite interesting news. Also, as you know, India was one of the, and still one of the main buyers of weapons on the international market. But Indian military-industrial complex is becoming so sophisticated that now India also becoming a big player on the weapons market. And according to this information from Commerzant, in previous year, India exported record-breaking amount of weapons for $1.9 billion, which is huge, and I'm happy for India, not because they are selling weapons to rest of the world, but because they have a well enough developed military-industrial complex that are capable of producing military equipment that is that has demand in the world. So anything what is good for India, I will see it as a good news, because that's how I see India, and that's how in Russia majority of us see India as a friendly country, friendly nation, and good luck to them. And this is also interesting news. TASS news agency is reporting that in the world now it's a huge demand for the tankers. Huge demand for the tankers, because, and that's interesting, most interesting part of this news, that previously producers of oil products, huge producers, were based in Europe. But now, because of some economical troubles, lockdowns, and the rest of it, manufacturing capacities of refining, how you say it, manufacturing capacities to work with oil and to produce oil products have been shifted to Asia, Indo-Pacific region, and the Middle East. And because of that, now Europe is exporting more and more oil products like diesel and the rest of it. And huge demand on oil tankers on the world market, on the world market, and this will probably continue. And that means that because of the mistaken policies of the Western elites, they truly are losing manufacturing plants, and not just in energo sector, because once they lost energo manufacturing plants, energy become much expensive in Europe. Then they managed to destroy relationships with Russia, and energy become even more expensive. And now they are buying all the fuel from India, from Middle East, from Indo-Pacific region and the Middle East, and because of it, energy cost will rise even more, and Europe will lose even more companies for USA, mainly for USA, for Canada. And yes, after some time, after 10, 15, 20 years, we will probably see deindustrialized Europe. There will be no more industrial capacities in Europe left. When now it's it's still quite industrialized, region, but let's see what will happen in 10, 15 years time. Maybe that's what Washington and London wanted from the very beginning, and yes, they are achieving their goals. This is it for now. I hope you will find this video interesting. 46 minutes. No matter how hard I try, man, these videos are still too long. So I hope you will find this video interesting, and if so, please hit that like button, subscribe if you are not subscribed, or just check it, maybe you were subscribed but YouTube algorithm did unsubscribe you. Please leave some commentary about any topic you like, questions for question time. Let's see how that project will work. Project is too strong a word, but and if you can, please share links to my videos with your friends on Twitter, Facebook, Telegram, or any other platform that you are active on. And yes, as I mentioned before, if you can and if you want to, you can support with small donations through PayPal, or by subscribing to my Patreon page. You will see links under this video in the description box. So yes, I wish you a great day. I hope you have a great weekend. Take care and see you soon.